What's up, guys? Today we're going over the new Rocket Pulse. Finally, this is Destiny 2's best special, and it's really not even remotely close. This scene is just absolutely wild. But really, everything in the game is just the best of every special type previously in Destiny 2, all mixed together into like the perfect weapon. This scene absolutely hits like a truck. When I was playing Mythic campaign missions, it was honestly the only weapon in the game that actually felt like it was still doing damage. And in this video, we'll be going over all the roles you want on this thing and why it's so good, and looking at its DPS and comparing it to other specials in the game. So let's just go right into the weapon. This will be a Strand rocket assisted frame pulse rifle. So a new frame this DLC, kind of similar to what Sidearms got recently with their rocket assisted frame. And so function kind of the same way as the Sidearms, where every shot is like impact and explode like a rocket. And instead of just one, like the sidearm, this will be a burst of 3, like a pulse. And just like the sidearm, the impact of the rocket can actually crit. And almost like a shotgun, it's not going to be a huge difference. It's going to be roughly 11% increase to the total damage of a shot, which is, 11%. So definitely aim for the head, but it's not like a deal breaker hitting only bodies with this pulse. But one of the cool things about this pulse is that it shoots like a pulse in 3 different missiles, so you can technically have a skill gap where you can aim at different things with each individual rocket from the burst, and it's pretty hard to do, and as you play more and more, you might get better at it. And as you saw in this clip, I've done Skywatch a bajillion times already, and that was the only time I've actually hit 3 of the crystals with 1 burst. Usually I can get 2 pretty easily, so that was pretty crazy. But for even at clear, you can technically spread all 3 rockets and hit multiple things, which is really cool. So it kind of has built-in great AoE at clear just because it's a rocket, and the fact that it shoots 3 and you can cover a bigger area. But now looking at the perks on this weapon, looking at both columns at the same time, there's going to be a few roles that I think are definitely worth getting on this weapon, almost like mandatory. This scene is so good. I think this is like a must-have weapon. So starting off with the, I think, best all-around just general purpose role when you're actively using the pulse rifle is going to be beacon rounds for the increased projectile speed and tracking, along with the reload speed. And with that, I would pair it with One for All, with it being an explosive weapon and the fact that you have the 3 rockets per burst that you can kind of spread. It's going to be pretty easy to proc One for All on this weapon and get that 35% buff. And that paired with the tracking and reload speed of beacon rounds and the reload duration multiplier, it's pretty good. And so if I was just going to recommend one role, I think that would be it. But you could go a different route of pure accurate on this weapon. I think it leans more to traditional special than accurate special, but you could go with chain reaction in the right, making it even better for that group accurate. And in the left, you could once again pair it with beacon rounds or go full out with hatchling for both thread lanes and the explosion of chain reaction. Another thing you could pair with chain reaction is recycled energy. This perk does work now, but I do think this is more of a primary perk because it's only on reload, not every kill. If it was something like demo where it was going to be on every kill, that'd be a lot better, because if you think about it, you're going to shoot 1 burst, probably kill everything, and reload, and recycled energy is only going to proc that 1 time on that 1 reload. So it's not going to really scale with the potential of the great group accurate of this weapon. So probably I would just stay away from that perk still on this weapon. And finally, we have 2 different perks for DPS, which this thing, as you'll see, is a legit DPS option. First, we have Envious Arsenal to avoid reloading by just doing damage with our weapons. And apparently this perk is supposed to have plus 20 ammo generation, so this could be just good for general play, kind of like beacon rounds, just for that passive increase to the ability to create ammo with this weapon. And the last one for DPS could be rewind rounds. And this paired with something like elemental honing in the right could be really good, because elemental honing lasts for 20 seconds, and with rewind you'll be able to shoot off like I think 10 or 11 or something like that, and really take advantage of that full buff. And so talking about the damage perks in the right that you would want to pair with Envious or Rewind, first you have Bait and Switch, the classic 30% for 10 seconds. And that's just going to be like the easiest perk to use for damage, but you could go with Elemental Honing. With this being an elemental weapon, it's not a big increase over Bait and Switch. At times 4, it's going to be 30%, and at times 5, 35, so a little bit higher. And with this being a Strand top slot weapon. You can get ×4 pretty easily with any setup and ×5 on prismatic, so definitely a pretty good option. With it being 20 seconds, double the length of bait and switch, that might be the way to go. But really, it's just whichever perk you get. I think they're going to be pretty similar for most things. And finally, I recommended one for all on this weapon. You could go with Master of Arms if you're just pulling this thing out for like pulling majors, mini bosses, champions, things like that, and not actively using it. Master of Arms would be the better general play damage perk. I wish it had the new one in Binary Orbit. It's also 25% and lasts a lot longer. With this being a strand weapon in top slot, obviously that'd be really, really easy to proc. But Master of Arms is pretty good and might be the way to go for just using this thing like a traditional special. And finally, the last right column perk, I think I mentioned all of the right column messages how stacked this thing is going to be Slice. I think Slice is actually a cool option on Hunter or Warlock right now with Starfire being meta and the whole combination blow grapple build, both of which use your class ability quite often, and constantly proccing Slice and being able to sever targets could be pretty good. So overall, I think I mentioned like every perk on the weapon in some combination. Really just farm this pulse. Really whatever you get is probably pretty good. I think the one perk I didn't mention was stats for all, and that's still not even remotely bad. I mean, that's just passive for all of your stats using this weapon that you'll constantly have procced. You really can't go wrong with this weapon. And now looking at DPS on this weapon, why am I so excited about this thing? It just hits like a truck. So just looking at the DPS of no perks, just body shots, it's almost 800. And if we go for all crits, it will go a little bit higher. So it's definitely worth aiming for crits, but it's not going to be like a huge jump up. Taking the DPS now over the 1 mag to 860, which is pretty good. But now we throw in a damage perk. The only one I have is Bait and Switch. I need to go back into Pinnacles. I've been farming a lot of solo ops. And DPS of 1 mag with Bait and Switch goes up to 1024. As we showed off in previous videos, that's already higher than the best sniper DPS in the game. And just slightly below Queenbreaker, which is absolutely wild from a special weapon that doesn't seem to be about DPS. And comparing that to a few different specials for DPS, looking at Elemental Honing Fusion Rifle ×5, this really isn't even close. And it's going to be just over 700, 776. So it's not bad, but I mean, it's like 300 off, right? And looking at a Slug Shotgun with Warple, once again, really not even close at 700. And finally, looking at a Rocket Sidearm, not even in the conversation at roughly 400 DPS. And you want to know the cool thing about the Rocket Pulse that none of these other ones can do? It also has infinite range, like true infinite range. And as you see, the DPS was actually higher at 50 meters at 1034. So yeah, it's just absolutely insane. Like, if you could craft the perfect special, I don't think you could do a better job than this thing. It has the accurate potential of a rocket sidearm. It has a single burst damage of a fusion. It has the range of a sniper. It has the ability to be used in close range like a shotgun. All this just in one weapon in one package with a really good, truly great perk pool. And the one thing I do hear about this weapon is the ammo economy isn't great, and I would just completely disagree. I'm going to give you a few tips to make it better. I think if you're having issues with the ammo economy of this weapon, I think you're using it too much like a primary. This weapon definitely fits the role of traditional special, where you're going to be pulling out for high targets, mini bosses, champions, even boss fights, compared to something like the rocket sidearm, where that's going to be mostly for ad clear, right? And that's where I think a lot of people that are having issues with the ammo are going wrong. They see it that it's a rocket assisted frame, think of the sidearm, and think it's used for red bars. And that's just not how this weapon is supposed to be used. And if we look at the ammo on this weapon, normally it holds 17 reserves, and that's not great, right? But if you put on a backup mag, it actually goes up one higher to 18. And then once you get a tier 4 version of this weapon where you can use enhanced mods, you can actually throw on enhanced backup mag, and this will make it hold a lot more ammo. So it's definitely worth getting tier 4 drops of this weapon, because now it will hold 21 ammo. And not only does backup increase the ammo this weapon can hold, It also increases the ammo from each special brick. So normally you only get 2, and then with backup mag it goes up to 3, and with enhanced backup mag it stays at 3, so no difference there. But you can throw on a scavenger, and with the artifact, scavengers only cost 1 energy, so they're pretty cheap to use. With that, with backup or enhanced backup, it'll go up to 4 per brick. Then if you really want to, you can spec into the weapon stat, and that will make it so you can get more ammo per brick on lucky drops. But overall, what I like to run is a special ammo finder, then a ammo generation perk on my chest. Whatever primary you're using, I use sunshot a lot, so solar, and that plus a scavenger. I mean, you're going to be getting ammo bricks every like 5-6 kills with your primary, and every brick gives 4. And if you're using this setup and you're still having problems with ammo, I think you're just using the weapon incorrectly, because there's just no way. I mean, every like 5 or 6 kills, I'm getting a special brick with 4 ammo, right? Even if I was using the pulse as a primary weapon, I'm going to be getting 5+ kills in 4 shots of the weapon, and getting those 4 shots back from the ammo brick if I use, you know, strand ammo generation. So with that set up and using the weapon more like it's intended to be used, I don't think you're going to have really any issues with the ammo on this weapon. But overall, for whatever reason, if you haven't used this pulse yet, definitely do it. It's by far the best special in the game. Best for general play, arguably the best for Actor, definitely the most versatile, and at the same time, it seems to be the DPS king for legendary specials easily in the game currently. And when you take this thing into the portal or harder difficulties of Kepler, it just still truly chunks and is just glued to my characters right now. Definitely glued to my Warlock on, and I like to use Monte Carlo just for the melee regen, and for Hunter I use Navigator. But honestly, I've been finding that I don't need Navigator for most content in the game, so I've been rocking this instead, and it's just completely stuck to my characters. It is not coming off. Anyways, one final recap of the roles I want on it. First, I want Beacon Rounds plus 1 for all, or Massive Arms. I think both are pretty good just for general play. And the second role for DPS would be Envious Arsenal plus Almost Honing or Bait and Switch, whichever you get. Both are pretty good. And the final one I want to keep along the way is Hatchling and Left, then with Chain Reaction for pure Actor, or Slice for severing targets while playing Warlock or even Hunter. And that last role isn't mandatory. I think this would be really cool for certain builds and worth keeping if you get it. Anyways, I think that's to be it for the video. Let me know what role you want down below. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.